This is still graphing linear equations part 2 on lesson 8.2. This is the second problem we're going to try. Something I want you to notice again, y is first. So that looks good. Now we're going to make our x and y chart using those three ordered pairs. So over here, x and y, because x is always first in an ordered pair, y is always second. We're using the numbers -1, 0, and 1. Okay, so we're going to start with this equation right here. And then I'm going to show my work over to the right, so I'm going to copy that down. Y equals 2. Now there's an x here, and we decided to use a -1 for our x. That's multiplication because a number and a variable next to each other means multiply. So I'm going to put that -1 in there. But then I'm going to copy everything else back down. Now the subtraction sign, I'm going to do that plus minus, and then I'm going to get into PEMDAS. So 2 times -1 is a -2, and a -2 plus -5 is a -7. Same sign, add. So when I use the -1 as my x, my answer was -7, so I'm going to write that over here next to his partner, and that is my first ordered pair. Now I'm going to start all over, but this time I'm going to use 0 for x. So with my equation, y equals 2 times, in parentheses, I'm going to write my 0, and then I'm going to bring everything else down, -5. Now before I do PEMDAS, I'm going to plus minus. Now I'll do my PEMDAS. So 2 times 0 is 0, and 0 plus -5 is -5. And that is what my y equals. So when I use 0 as my x, I got -5 as my y, so I'm going to put my -5 next to his partner of 0. That's my second order pair. One more to go. I'm going to put my work over here because I'm running out of space there. So I'm going to copy that equation down again. 2. And this last time I want to use 1 for x. So I'm going to put times 1. And then I'll copy everything else down. Now before I do PEMDAS, I'm going to change that subtraction sign to a plus minus. Now I'm ready. 2 times 1 is 2. And 2 plus -5, they're not on the same team, so I'm not going to add, I'm going to subtract and keep the sign with a bigger number. So -3. Y equals -3. So when I used a 1 for my x, I got a -3 for my y. So I'm going to put him over by my partner, and that completes my third ordered pair. Now it's time to graph. So starting with my first ordered pair, -1, -7. Starting at the origin, -1 goes left, down 7. There's my first ordered pair. Second point, 0, -5. Starting at the origin, 0 stays, -5 goes down. Good, that's 2. And the last point is 1, -3. Starting at the origin, over 1, up 3. Or sorry, over 1, down 3. Right there. Now the reason I caught myself up here is I was looking at my points and there was no way this was going to make a straight line, so I knew I was doing something wrong right away. So that's how I caught my mistake here. Got my 3 ordered pairs here. Now I have to connect them using a straight edge. So I'm going to do that as best I can. I'm going to try that again. That slipped here. It is important to keep this as straight as possible. I'm trying to go all the way through my grid. Okay, I need to put arrows at the end. And one down here. And then I have to label this. So up at the top, I'm going to take this equation right here and I'm going to label that at the top of my arrow. So y equals 2x minus 5. There, I just labeled my line. Definitely makes a straight line, so that looks good. Is this a function? If I looked at my vertical line test, I can't hit more than one point at a time either, so it is in fact a function also. Okay, I have another example here. This one looks a little different, I noticed. It only has one variable in it, but I can still graph. So it says start with y first. Well, I don't have a y to put first, so I'm going to leave the x first. Now, when I make my x and y chart, this is kind of weird because if you look at your equation, like normally we'd go -1, 0, and 1. Well, if you look closely at your equation, it says x has to equal 3. X has to be 3 and nothing else. You can't use anything else for 3. So I actually have to go back, and because of my equation, I have to write a 3 every time. Whoops. So I have to have a 3 and a 3 and a 3. Now, normally I would have written -1, 0, and 1 like I did, but when I looked more closely at my equation, it told me what x had to be and no exceptions, so I'm going to do that every time. Now, if I look at this, and I'm like, well, what's my y value going to be? Not as tricky as you think. If I put a 3 in for x and copy the rest of my equation down, this is a true statement. What's y? I don't even need a y. I don't even care what y is because they're not even asking for it. So I can put anything I want in here. I can put a 0. That's not going to change this right here. If I use this 3 and substitute it in, 3 equals 3, doesn't it? What's y? I don't even care. I didn't ask for y, so maybe it's a 2. And the last one, same thing. 3 equals 3. That's a true statement. It didn't ask for y, so you can pick anything you want for y. I'm just trying to pick numbers that are on my grid somewhere. Why not a negative number? Let's try -5. So these are my 3 ordered pairs. Now I have to graph these. Starting with 3, 0. Let's do that. So starting with 3, 0, starting at the origin, right 3, 0 stays. Done. 3, 2 at the origin, over 3, up 2. Done. The last one is 3, -5. At the origin, right 3, -5. Done. I have my 3 ordered pairs graphed. Now let's connect those. The straight line. I'm going to put my arrows on the end because this isn't the only points that work. And then let's go ahead and label our equation at the top. X equals 3. Done. These make a straight line, so I know I did it correctly. I made a linear equation. That's a line. Now, is it a function? Well, this is a vertical line, and I hit 3 points at the same time. Well, that doesn't pass the vertical line test, not even close. So this is not a function because these points all hit the same vertical line. So that's not a function. It's a linear equation, but it's excuse me, not a function. So you notice when it says x equals 3, x has to be 3, but y can be anything. So I actually made a vertical line. This graph kind of reminds me of the one we just did, but instead of having an x, they have a y, which is what we always want to start with. So y is first, which is what we like. I'm going to go ahead and set up my x and y table, or x and y chart. X and y. And we always use -1, 0, and 1. Excuse me. So looking at my equation here, it's y equals -5. Now that was weird because I have a -1 for x, but it didn't ask for x. So when I wrote this, my answer, it says y equals -5. That's what I got for my answer. That's interesting. What about this next one? I'm going to use 0 this time, so I'm going to start with my equation here. Y equals -5. Again, I didn't have an x anywhere to fill in. They didn't even ask for it. I have an answer here. My answer is -5, so I'm going to write that in. My last ordered pair, or my last x is a 1, so I'm going to start with my equation up here. Y equals -5. Same thing. They didn't ask me for my x. They didn't care. I still got an answer though. My answer is still -5, so I'm going to write that down. That's my third ordered pair. That's it. Very similar to the question before. Not exactly the same, but similar. Now I get to graph these. So going to my graph paper, starting with -1, -5, starting at origin, -1 goes left, -5 goes down. Here's my first one. The second one is 0, -5. 0 stays. -5 goes down. There's my second one. And my final one is 1, -5 at the origin. Write 1, down 5. There's my third order pair. Let's connect those to make a straight line. Let's make arrows on the end so it's continuous. And let's label our graph. Y equals -5. Okay. That's a straight line, so this is a linear equation. Now, is it a function? Yes. All of these, there's just one point on a line, so is it a function? Yes, it is a function. Notice how these look different. X equals is a vertical line. Y equals is a horizontal line. But if you can't remember that, just go ahead and put your substituted values in, and you'll be able to figure it out without memorizing that. What I'd like you to do now is open your books to page 394 to 396. I want you to grab a piece of paper and your graph paper and do questions 16 through 19. Now, with a couple reminders. First of all, you have to write out your x and y tables with at least 3 values. You can use -1, 0, and 1. Second thing is, make sure you use a separate graph for each one so that I can tell what your graphs look like and number that. Remember too that you should label each of your equations. Label each graph. When you have that done, go ahead and turn that in. Good luck.